Concrete pastures.
That's cream. That's right.
Hello, family. Welcome back to Concrete Pastures. I'm Nancy Mwasisi. For those of you joining us for the first time, this is a vibrant space dedicated to exploring the journeys of immigrants who have moved to new countries in search of greener pastures. So here we dive into rich tapestry of experiences, sharing insightful stories and valuable lessons we've learned along the way. Our goal is to provide you fresh perspectives on the immigrant journey, celebrating the resilience and the determination it takes to start anew. Believe me, it's a lot. Whether you are an immigrant, considering to move, or just simply curious about immigrant experiences, all right, join us on this journey and let's get a better understanding on what it really means to be an immigrant. So don't forget to subscribe, like and share this helpful. Let's help us continue to share these stories and let's continue to inspire others around the world. I'm so excited and honored to introduce our guest today. I'm so grateful he was able to make time for us. He is a podcast host, president at MedCab, and healthcare investor. Today, he's here to share his amazing journey of resilience and entrepreneurship. Martin is an inspiring immigrant who made a bold decision to leave his home country in Kenya for new opportunities in the US of A during his early 2000s. With the support of his family and friends who raised funds to cover his one-way ticket and a generous loan of $200 from his best friend, Martin embarked on a journey that would change his life. Today, he is a successful entrepreneur, owning over 4 businesses that generate eight-figure incomes and employ more than 100 people across 3 countries. Despite his busy professional life, Martin prioritizes spending quality time with his family. He is a dedicated homeschooling parent, believing that purpose-driven education is more impactful in the marketplace than traditional schooling. In addition to his entrepreneurial ventures, Martin is the host of the Immigrants Nation PODcast, where he shares stories and insights about the immigrant experience and the journey towards success. Hi, Martin. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
This is great.
honor is all mine. Honor is all mine. I'm so excited. I'm always intrigued and, wanting to know what life was like in your home country. How was it living in Kenya?
Well, that's that's a while ago. Interesting. Let's put it that way. Growing up as a kid, life was easy. I had a good time. As a child, I had a good time. I really enjoyed my childhood. I think I still miss it.
Yeah.
Um,
What are
yeah,
some of
and
the fun
and and
memories?
then playing soccer. Um, Hanging out, playing soccer, looking forward to my parents coming home in the evening. That was always exciting. I always kept myself busy when I was a kid, so I ran small businesses then. Now that I look back, I think of them as small businesses. Then I did not. Then it was a way to survive, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I kept animals, lots of them. How I don't know, but looking back, it was a way for me to help my parents find my way through high school, and it was a way for me to get things that I wanted that were not available to us. I really did not come from what most people would consider a poor family, not on the contrary, but we were not rich either. Compared to everybody else around us, we had 3 meals, and sometimes it was a variety. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I know the neighbors who did not have meals, at least not all three. So I had hardworking parents, and I would looking back, while most people may consider that poverty, I think we were middle class. So we had a good life.
Oh, lovely. I mean, having being an entrepreneur, I think, has been running throughout your life, which we're going to get into because
Yes.
you're an entrepreneur here. But before we get there, like what got you leaving Kenya if you are having such a good time, you are an entrepreneur there, why leave?
Okay, so we talked about my childhood. We did not talk about my early adulthood, right? So
Oh,
as
okay.
an adult,
Let's cover
as
that.
a as an adult, early adult, I graduated high school, and then after graduating high school, I graduated from college with mass communication and journalism, and that eventually led me and a friend of mine to start a nonprofit that
Mm,
was dedicated to helping children and for children to find um, to express themselves. And you know, we did really well. We did the first two programs really, really well. And then the third program, we ran out of money. I was doing businesses on the side and had a decent amount of money saved up, and so I invested my money into the nonprofit. And when we got paid for hosting the event, my partner was able to collect the check from UNESCO and cashed the check without my knowing. And by the time I got wind of it, it was too late. And there you go. I was broke. So that put me in a really dark place. Um, and for this next 6 months, it was a really, really tough struggle.
mm,
But my dad is a great guy, but then he was not. Um, and so we really depended on my mom, and it was too much for her. You know, I had just had my daughter, um, and trying to feed her was difficult. And so there are days I would go find my mom to help us with food. As embarrassing that was, it was difficult, and I became a burden to my brothers and my sisters, and you could just see it in their eyes that I was a problem.
mm,
And I don't know how, I really don't know how the opportunity to come to the US happened, but it did, through my sisters. Um, and before you know it, in less than 2 weeks, I was in America. I got out at the airport, and I knew nobody. I did not even know who I was coming to. I
mm.
did have a number for a classmate that I graduated college with. And so I called him. I said, hey, I am in Minneapolis and I'm at the airport. I don't know where you are. Can you help me? And he was in Houston. So he got me a taxi, got me into Greyhound, got me to Houston. And lo and behold, we both together moved back to Minneapolis. And that's kind of how I integrated into the system. Yeah. I came on a visitor's visa. Um, and then I converted the visa into a student visa. And from a student visa to I got married. I'm really fast forwarding here.
Yes, yes.
And when I got married, you know, many years later became a U.S. citizen, but I did that through the army.
Yeah.
I served in the U.S. Army, and so through the U.S. Army, I became a U.S. citizen. But that said, in between there were so many journeys. Your question was regarding what was my first business. My first business was I was a kid. I used to sell sugarcane, and then from sugarcane, because sugarcane was like, once a while, I would I went and bought raw peanuts, and I had an arrangement with a neighbor woman who would cook the peanuts for me, and I would distribute and pack them to a couple of friends, and would go to soccer matches, and that's how we got in to see the soccer matches for free. So they would sell my peanuts, and they would get to see the soccer matches for free. They didn't ask for payment. That's all they wanted was to see the games. And we did that for a while. And from that, I graduated to keeping doves, and from that I went to rabbits. At some point, probably I was in seventh, eighth grade. I had probably 120 something rabbits, and I used to sell those to restaurants that did game meat. And then I went to boarding school. That was a different lifestyle. Yeah,
How was boarding school? Because I mean, I interviewed Zambaza. I'm not sure if you know Zambaza. He has the Zambaza podcast. He's from
right.
Kenya. He went to
Yeah,
boarding school. He has a whole different experience of boarding school. I mean, my boarding school, I was eating samp, which is like corn. That is a little, I don't even know how to describe it. But you
mm,
guys, he was living his best life, let me just say, in boarding school. How was your
yeah.
experience?
Boarding school was like hot and cold for me. I had really great experiences, really, really great experiences. I went to a boys only boarding school. So like on Saturdays we had a
Ooh.
bull dance where all the boys just went to the a dining hall and we danced through the night. That was a lot of fun. We had a really good time. It
Where
was
the
a good
girls
way to
would come, or it was just boys?
no. This was a boys boarding school. And we didn't have electricity, so we used kerosene lamps. You can imagine studying with one kerosene lamp in a room with about 48 students. That was
Wow.
very interesting. Or sometimes if you come early in the morning, you don't have kerosene lamp. Hopefully you have a candle and you can soak a candle. I mean, you can light the candle and study. Um, Talking about study, I was not the very best of students. I was one of those guys who was, you know, in the back of the classroom, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Mhm.
Getting poor grades for me was not. I'm not a stranger to getting poor grades. Um, but that didn't hold me. I was in boarding school and I couldn't wait for the break to come. And when the break came, I was back in my dormitory selling bread illegally. And at times I sold cigarettes illegally. But I made good money. I made really good money in those 3 years I was in boarding high school. That was enough capital for me to go and start a business immediately after high school and pay my way through college. So it was a good time.
I'm happy you're being open about having poor grades, because that's something that I think as parents we have to look into with our kids, because sometimes school is not for everybody. I love like
No,
specialized
no,
schooling that we have here in the US. No,
right.
seriously, I was interested in media. That was the
Yeah,
only thing that you see me singing, anything on TV, I was into.
yeah, yes.
So I love that you mentioned that, because there was so much this I guess reinforcement of school back home, and you gotta go to school even when your parents, they can see that, okay, this kid is not performing to the same ability as other kids. What's going on? Nobody does research. It's just like the screaming is there. You gotta make sure you gotta make your grades like everybody else. But meanwhile, it looks like you're an entrepreneur making money.
Um, well, yeah. So talking about school, you have to understand, at least for me and you, I'm thinking,
Yeah,
for millennials and beyond,
yeah.
what was school for us? What was that experience, and why did we go to school, right? We were just coming out of colonialism, right? And
Mm-hmm.
coming out of colonialism, the only way our parents knew how to get us out of the situation they best understood was to make sure that we were educated, because most of them were semi-educated or not educated at all, right? They did
Oh,
not
a thousand
understand
percent.
any,
Yeah.
they did not understand any structure. And so for them to push hard for us to go to school is how they saw that we would have better lives. I do appreciate that. But knowing what I know now, there's different ways to educate people, right?
Yeah.
For me, school, the part where you get to sit behind a desk and actually listen to a teacher, for me, it was extremely boring,
Yeah.
right? I was a very rebellious student in terms of learning.
Mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm.
I hated physics and I hated my physics teacher, and I did not comprehend math. Check this out. I really did not understand math until I turned 35.
Mm, mm.
And now I can sit down and I can crack formulas for you, and I have no idea what changed. I don't know what snapped,
Oh, wow.
right? Something happened and it changed, and all of a sudden now I could do math as an adult. But through all my life as a student in primary school, in secondary school, even through college, it was a nightmare. I
Yeah.
struggled. I would listen, I would watch the teacher, I would be able to follow, and then when the exams came, I would freeze,
Yeah. And there's also that, like a lot of
right?
people, like myself, I'm scared of taking tests, any
Yeah.
kind of test. I'm
Oh
just
my gosh,
like,
we share the problem.
I'm just like,
Now, not
I could
not
study all night and I'm there to take a test. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sweating everywhere.
listen, my stomach cringes and it tightens so
Yep.
tight. It doesn't matter what test I take. So
Yep.
until probably maybe 11 years ago, I was sitting at a Starbucks and I was talking to this entrepreneur friend of mine. I was telling them how tests scare me and how I freeze when I'm taking any test. It doesn't matter what. And he sat down and he said, "Hey, I'm talking to my entrepreneur, and this guy was eavesdropping on our conversation. He comes over and says, "Hey, my name is Dr. So and so. I think I do know what a solution to your problem. I was just eavesdropping. I'm sorry, but there's something called beta blockers. You just go to your pharmacy, tell them you need a beta blocker because you're taking a test. You'll be good." He changed my life. All right. But that was after multiple failures that were like dramatic. For example, I'm going to share something I've not shared with a lot of people. When I was in the army, I was what in the army we considered a high-speed soldier.
Mhm.
Like I was advancing very fast.
Yeah.
I did some crazy stuff. I really, really wanted to join the Delta Force. Like that was my dream when I was in the army. So I
Mhm.
worked hard to go into the Delta Force because they take the best of the best of the best of the best. And I had to take a test and course that I had to take. And I was the first soldier in that leadership school in the US Army history to fail the test.
Oh my God.
While I excelled on everything else, this one test kept me away from being able to go to a special forces school to and I took it again several months later and I failed and it
So
completely
sorry.
destroyed me,
Yeah. I can't
right?
imagine.
And you go from being paraded in front of 8,000 soldiers as the ideal
Yeah.
soldier,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden now you're being paraded in front of 8,000 soldiers as the worst example of what the army should have recruited. That was a very embarrassing moment and time period for me. I couldn't last. After that, I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. Right. And so I accelerated my way out of the army. And luckily, it really did coincide with my first 4 years. But then I was tied with my contract. And after my 4 years in the army, I had to go back into the guard and do another 2 years. So that was very interesting. So talking about failure is you get punched really so hard in life. Marriages don't work, finances don't work. Sometimes we get sick, people we love die. All these are
Mm-hmm.
kind of failures that will attack you in all sorts of kind of ways, right? But the question is, when you get punched, can you pick yourself up and step and keep going and persistence? Because in everything we do in life, even in my failure in mathematics, persistent is what got me 35 years later for something to click in my head and to go boom, now I can do it, right? It's that persistence that is really, 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 really important. So while we may get hit with things and we fall down, we really have to stand up and look up and keep moving.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, while you were talking, got me thinking as to how God gets us into certain situations to prepare us for what's to come. And I'm going through you doing the failing multiple times and being an entrepreneur. That is part of the process.
It is.
And I think for me, just sitting here, hearing you speak, I'm like, God was preparing you for what was to come. I mean, you have four businesses,
Mhm.
and I guess, according to what you shared, it's eight-figure businesses.
Yes.
That's a lot for us immigrants, and I mean, we have side hustles. Please tell us how the failures happened. How have you been able to overcome those failures? I mean, given where you've come from and being here with eight figures, like, how did you make it?
So so understand that I'm a Kenyan. I come from Kenya, and part of me escaping or leaving Kenya was I could not stomach corruption.
Mm,
And so for me, that was a driving force. Like I just wanted a level playing field where I could play and do my thing. And I loved entrepreneurship. I love solving people's problems for a very long time. I think I've done it since I was a little kid,
yeah,
right? I've always found ways to help other people, and for some weird reason, there's an exchange of currency in it, right? So for me, when people talk about the definition of entrepreneurship, is really the ability of an individual being able to apply themselves in a situation where they solve somebody else's problem, and the other person is rewarding them with cash
yeah,
or butter, depending if you know if you're butter trading, right? And so while I enjoyed entrepreneurship and I did a side hustle, I also worked for other people, right? And that's the one thing that most people don't understand is that when you're starting, you have to create that base where you are taking care of yourself and you're taking care of your family. For me, I had my daughter and I
Mm.
had just gotten um, married. And so I had a wife to take care of and I had a kid to take care of. And so I remember my first business in the US that I started with my wife. And we started a cleaning business, something really simple. And it was so difficult because there's so many things I did not understand, but we still did it. We still got into it, right? And we struggled. We worked for free, like we cleaned churches for free. We because we were looking for customers that way. We did not understand what we were doing, right? And we succeeded and also failed in that, right?
Mm.
At some point, we just couldn't do it because it was too much. And somebody came to me that had a larger cleaning company. They're like, "Hey, I have clients. You have clients. You're complaining about this thing. Um, I have $15,000. Can you give me your clients for whatever?" So I didn't even know how to sell or buy a business then, right? So we took the 15K and we walked away. That was a good investment for us because we started with $600 and
Mm-hmm.
3 years later we had 15. So it was good, but we still kept working, right? We were still working. I was still working 2 jobs. I was still working with my brothers and my sisters to help build our parents' homes, our parents' house. We were still doing other things to find a way to keep moving forward, right? Because life does not stop just because you want to be an entrepreneur. Life
Mm-hmm.
does not stop because, but you have to stay focused on what you want to do, right? And for me, that was the first time while I had run so many businesses in Africa during my college years and before I came to the US, I realized that I did not really know how to run a formal business,
Mm.
right? And when I was, if you met me when I was in high school and you say, "What are you gonna do when you grow up?" I would say, "Hey, I'll be a millionaire at 24 and I'm gonna be running businesses."
Yeah.
It sounds easy. It is not.
Yeah.
And this is the part where most people don't understand that business is not a 100-meter dash. Business is a marathon. It takes a really long time to prepare for it. It takes a really long time to start the race and takes a long time to run that race, right? And if you really think about a marathon, it's just not a one person's race, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're running a marathon, there's people on the side who are cheering you up. There's people who are monitoring you. There's monitoring devices. There's people who are there to support you in first aid in case you have muscle cramps. There's people who are providing water and salt and sugar and on and on and on and food,
Mm.
right? Those are people who are supporting you. And in business, you need the same village to support you. So the biggest thing about business is realizing it takes a long time to succeed. I mean, a really long time. A good example is Warren Buffett. Started business when he was a young man, somewhere about 19. But Warren Buffett did not become a billionaire until he was 58. And then in 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
he doubled his net worth, right? So it took him a very long time to become filthy rich. Now, the world has changed, at least the Western world has changed, right? And now we have technology that is really creating billionaires overnight, right?
Mm-hmm.
These
We
are
live in that world of
a,
uh,
a
instant
businessman
gratification.
that does not belong in business anywhere. At least in my experience, there is
Yeah.
no instant gratification, right? Business is like a boxing match.
Martin, will you
You
have
you win.
people on social media, not to cut you short, we have social people on social media saying, "Oh, I just quit my job, and I'm running this seven-figure, business, and I'm making such and such and such." So it gives people like they are wasting time. Like for somebody who's like you talk about Warren Buffett that has been
Mhm.
doing business for so many years, and you go on social media and this person is like posting like this marketing situation that they're putting out there. Like, this is, I quit my job 6 months ago, and this is how much I'm making, 7 figures already on my business. I don't know. It sends a wrong message to working people with side hustles. And I don't know, it gives a different understanding of business because, like you, I come from business.
Mhm.
And it takes a long time to be successful. And it takes a lot of consistency, dedication, time, and having a village. And a lot of my people that I'm around that are even starting businesses back home that have left. I have a friend of mine. He left. He used to live in Australia. He went to Bali. He learned how to recycle, and he started recycling in Zambia, which is something very, very new to Zambia.
Mhm.
We have garbage everywhere. Not to shame my country, but we do have uh, garbage everywhere. When you drive in the city,
And that's an opportunity for an entrepreneur.
yes, and
An entrepreneur's job is solving problems,
and
right?
he took that opportunity, and
Mhm.
he can't get funding. He can't, like, everything because it's new. And people are like, okay, what are you talking about? Garbage. We just throw garbage over there. So he's talking about recycling. Let's recycle. Now he's doing the butter process. You bring
Mhm.
your bottles, I give you butter. You bring your bottles, I give you cooking oil. You bring your bottles, I give you milling meal for you to go cook pap and stuff.
Creativity.
Yeah, so he started to do that. So people are getting into it. But then we have these people that come out and say, oh my God, I'm making this much money.
Well, look, in the world we have anomalies. Okay, so I'm gonna draw a clear picture of an anomaly that everybody can understand, right?
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg is an anomaly, right? He went to college. Well, in his college dormitory, him and his friends, or however it worked out, they created Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook has become this juggernaut of a business today, right? How many Mark Zuckerbergs do we have in the world?
Not that many. Not.
There's going to be a very small amount of people that are that of a genius, if you want to call them that, that
Mm-hmm.
come up, that see something that everybody doesn't see, right? And create a solution that the whole world embraces, right? And so those are anomalies. They happen every so often, but it's not the game of the majority of people, right? Now, some people also get lucky in the marketplace. And by
Mm-hmm.
the way, business requires luck, if you ask me, right? Some people get lucky and they're what you call they get into the marketplace, they have a certain skill, a certain awareness, and
Mm-hmm.
they're able to convert that into cash very quickly. Now, if you ask that person who's saying, oh, I stopped my job and started this business and I'm making 7-figure income, that's good for them. But the question is, did you go to college? Were you given a skill by somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Did you work for somebody else to realize you are not a great employer and what you were doing, you could get paid more,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's all these things that are preemptive before you get to now making 7 figures, right? That we want to discredit or not to consider, right? That skill that you're putting in the marketplace that now that is generating you so much money, you learned it from somebody else. That skill that you're making money off of, you're driving on roads that have been built by government. You're competing in a marketplace that really in reality has been created by government. So you're not doing, this is the perception we have, right? There's not a single business out there that is successful by itself. Business is successful because you have so many people around you. The
Yeah.
first person is the government. Does the government create an environment where you can be able to thrive and succeed? And this is why I love America, because in America, if you can work hard, if you can do the right thing, success is only pegged on how smart and how quickly and how fast and how long you're willing to endure in whatever it is you're doing, and if or does the marketplace require that product,
Mm-hmm.
right? So do we have anomalies in the marketplace? We do, but it's not for everybody, right? And so I understand those people. They come, but it's not going to be the majority. It really is not.
Got it. How did you manage to make 8 figures? Please.
Like I said, business is a village, right?
Yeah.
First, I love people. The idea that I love people, I think, is what is so revealing about how to be successful in life, is because I love people. And so hanging out with people becomes easier, and identifying what their problems are easy, and then niching on what that is and focusing on that is really, really what gets you there. So when I started business, my current business now, I'm in the private ambulance industry, right?
Yeah.
When I started, I had just gotten out of the army. I had in the army what we call a TSP, which
Mhm.
is a thrift savings plan. In the out market here is a 401k. I did not have any other money saved up, but while I was in the army, my daughter and I, every day after I got out of work, I took off my uniform and we drove around gas stations in Hawaii and collected, talking about recycling, we collected cans, soda
Mm.
cans, because in Hawaii you can sell newspapers and soda cans. So we collected this every day without a fail. Is that embarrassing or not for a young man? Of course it is, but we did it. And so by the time I was doing my 4-year cycle, I had saved up a really decent amount of money. We split in the middle. My daughter took a share, I took my share. That plus what I had saved on my TSP is what somehow got me the capital to start my business. Now, there's a backstory to this. In 2007, yeah, 2007, I had started a trucking company. Again, did not know how to do business the right way. Uh, the business started to grow. A friend of mine had given me debt from his credit card, and we started to grow the business. And I was doing very well. But you know, when you're young and you're foolish and you think you're doing well, you start getting into debt.
Yeah.
Right? Went and bought a big house,
Mm.
right? Bigger than my pocket could allow. But hey, I'm making big money.
Yeah. It's going to cover.
And then 2008 happened.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because we all know what happened in
Yeah.
2008.
I lost my
I
my
lost my
401k.
business, right?
Yep.
And when I
I'm
lost my
having trauma. Just
yeah, when I lost my business, we had to go into bankruptcy. And part of going into bankruptcy is I had promised my wife I'd never start business again because that was really hard for us.
Mm.
And so I started working two jobs so that I could pay for the bankruptcy, and it just wasn't working out.
Mm.
And so I met this army recruiter, and he painted a picture of this is going to work out for me. So that's how I ended up joining the army. Um, and so it was a great experience for me. But when I got out, I started selling life insurance. Again, I'm going back into that. But while I was in the army, I was also going to school because when my business failed, something I promised myself was now I have to formally educate myself so that I can understand how to do business.
Yes.
Right? I need to understand the numbers. I need to be able to understand my financial statement. I need to be able to think numbers. You cannot run a business and run it correctly without understanding your numbers. That's not going to happen,
Yeah.
right? And so after that, the failure, went into the army, got out of the army, started selling life insurance, and I was going to Miami to train on how to be a better salesperson. One day I'm coming out of a training building, and there's this old Jewish couple that was standing in the rain, and they were just soaked in the rain, and their phone was in the water, and they were just miserable. So I gave them a ride home. And when I got them to their assisted living facility, we formed a bond, a relationship with the husband. He was a veteran, I was a veteran, and we had a lot to talk about. And taking him to this place, I was like, oh my goodness, um, this guy has a huge family, and they seem like to be super rich. If I can convert them to the products I'm selling for life insurance, my goodness, this would be a good account. And so
Mhm.
that's what I'm thinking. And he, a couple of visits later said, Martin, I mentioned something to you and you really never paid attention. So I'm going to mention it again. They look, I was a young man in New York and I did very well for myself. As a realtor, I had over 58 agents working for me. I did very
Mhm.
well. You can obviously see that. If I would do life again, This is what I would do. And so he told me I would go into the medical transportation business because based on my experiences for how long this works out, it's horrible. And I would like to do a better job. And so I'm telling you, you seem like a smart guy. Go give it a shot. I wasn't paying attention. So I took off, came back next Saturday, hanged out. He asked me how if I had looked at it. No, I had not. And he just looked me dead in the eye and said, "Young man, stand up. Or you go home and go look into this idea and don't come back here again without a business proposal for me." I had never written a business proposal.
Mm.
Okay. He kicked me out. I took off. Didn't come back for 2 weeks, but I did look. And the day I started looking, I was up for 21 hours in my daughter's bedroom, hiding from my wife because I had told her I would never get into business again, on my laptop, looking and creating the business. I created the structure of my business based on what I had learned from reading business books and from being in school, in college, because I went to school for business administration. And all the things I had learned, I could now easily create a business structure. So I wrote what he had asked me to do and went back to see him. And I remember giving him a binding document. He opened the first page and opened the last page, closed it, went back to his pocket, took out $20, put it in the book, gave it back to me. And he said, "That's my investment with you. Now go do it." And he closed his door. That's the last time I saw him. So I went looking for money. I needed $36,000 to start. From my TSP, from my savings from selling cans with my daughter, I had somewhere about 19,000. Was not enough.
That was a lot in those days.
Right?
It's still a lot today.
Yes, yeah, it was still a significant amount of money. So I went and bought a vehicle for cash. I had a little bit of money left over and came home, and me and my wife got into it. Where do you find the money to buy a vehicle and pay
Mhm.
cash for it? Um, and it is what it is. We got into it and got the vehicle ready, and I started doing my business. The first 3 weeks, I had one client for free, and I took him to dialysis back and forth every other day for 3 weeks, and then I ran out of money.
Mm.
I came home, and my wife comes home, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" I ran out of money, so she gave me $60. Put fuel, went out. A second client came to me, and this client was traveling a distance of 130 miles 3 days a week. And that's how I started making money, right? And I grew my business. I grew it, and had one employee after maybe 2 months.
Wow.
And then we ran out of money because I had not done business for so long. I did not know what checks looked like, at least corporate checks. And
Yes.
I worked so many hours when I first started. I would leave home at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would come back at 11 o'clock at night. That was non-stop working throughout the day. I was working so much, so much. And I did not have time to stop. Me and my guy were just completely just working, and we made all this money, but I did not realize I had money coming in. So the one client that was paying me, I ran out of money. We woke up one morning, and I was like, I can't do it again. So I woke up my wife. I said, "Can I borrow some money?" And we got into it, but she gave me $200,
Mm.
and we went back and did that day. But what she did was she stayed home, and she wanted to know what I have been doing since I've been working for so long, and I've lost. I'm never home. I come home at 11 o'clock, and I'm out the door before 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Right. And she wanted to know what I was doing. So she started calling all these people. And she would call me, be like, "Who have you been working with?" I say, "I've been working with this client, and they've not paid you. I've not seen their money." So she called all of them, and they all said, "Hey, we've paid him." Give her check numbers when the checks was mailed, how they were mailed. She tore that house down, did not find them. So she calls me and she says, "Hey, I've talked to all your clients. They all have sent you money. They all have you paid. and I cannot find checks here. Where are they going?
Yeah.
So I came home and I started looking and we couldn't find them. Luckily, my daughter comes from school. She's keeping. I said, Lisa, have you seen any of my mail? She goes, oh, Dad, your mail is on top of the fridge in the box. You don't read it, so I just keep it there. Okay, so we went to the box and there was this box that was filled up with envelopes. And we started tearing those envelopes up. And every envelope was money, money, money. And by the time we're done tearing envelopes, in 3 months, I've made about $69,000.
Oh my God.
Now you can tell my voice just changed because that
Yeah.
was like my aha moment, like this is doable.
Yeah.
That that amount of money changed my life.
Yeah.
It did not just change my life, it also changed my wife's life. Like she picked up this money, she said, in 3 months you've been able to do this. I'm gonna have to help you. Now she became one of those people who quit her job. My wife is a nurse by trade, and she quit her job to help me start and grow the business. Right. And so we've grown that business to what we are now. In the ambulance industry, we had three ambulance companies. We
Yes.
had shut one down because of things here and there, right? But
Yeah.
now we're down to two. Um, but it took a lot of work and
Mm-hmm.
it took a really long time, right? And it took a lot of family around me. My father-in-law had been so very supportive. My mother-in-law had been so very supportive. My brother, Vincent, has been so very supportive. There were times we were running tight on payroll. And these are the three people I would turn to and I would be like, hey, look, I have money, it's out there, but I have payroll to meet, I need help, right? Those were the early years
Yeah.
and they would help me. But how does anybody give you 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, $20,000? You have to be honorable for people to trust you to give you money.
Yeah.
And so family becomes part of how you run an enterprise. So do your friends, because banks are always not going to give you money, especially when you're starting those early years, right? In America, banks don't fund a new business for the first 2 years. They just
Yeah.
don't.
Mm-hmm.
And money lenders may give you money, they'll kill you though, right?
Yeah.
And so you're left with family and friends. And so before you start your business, you need to be honorable with the family and friends, right? Like if you borrow something from them, a book, bring it back. You borrow $20, pay them back. You ask somebody to use their car, top it up with fuel and wash it before you bring it back, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are the little seeds that we plant when you go to your brother's house and you serve your dinner, take his dishes from the table and go wash them, right? These are the little seeds you plant to stand out in the crowd, right? You go out to dinner, your sister may be buying dinner, but you're going to tip the waitress, right? The little things you do to plant the seed to say, I got your back, are the things that they will help them in making that decision to support you to succeed.
Wow. No,
That's a mouthful, right?
no, there's just so much to take away from that. Being
Yeah,
honorable, and it's just, you know, I love business, but I, I, I'm impressed by a lot of people that, can tell their story and how they are able to make it to where they are. And you sharing where you started and where you are today, it's amazing. There's so much to take away, and you're so humble about it. Um, I just love it.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really love
So
it.
in life, there's always a dog that's bigger than you, and there's
Mhm.
always a dog that can bark harder than you, and there's
Mm.
always a dog that can bite harder than you can, right? And so when you think you're doing really well, and then you meet somebody else who's like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And so have I done pretty decent for myself? Yes, but I'm just a peon in the scheme of things,
Mhm.
right? These people were playing huge games, big games, right? And
Yeah.
everybody's got their talent and skill and their place in the marketplace, right? And our job our responsibility as human beings is to be honorable to thyself and then being honorable to thy marketplace, right? If you've discovered a niche in the marketplace, give it all you got and be truthful, and no shortcuts, and be ready to work,
Yeah.
right? Be ready to work. Scripture says the work is plenty, but the workers are few, right? So go out and give it all. Yeah, right.
Well, if you're not pumped after this, I don't know what to pump you up. I
Yeah.
have no idea. I
So
mean,
here's a story for you. Um, I was really desperate when I was in the army. Desperate because I kept having the same question over and over in my head. Why did I fail? What did I do wrong? And like the one thing that I really, really struggled with when I was way younger, in my early 20s, was finding a good mentor, right? And being educated the right way. And I did not know how to look for one. I'm a very private individual,
mhm,
right? And that also affects the personality of who I am in the marketplace, right? But I really struggled to find a mentor and did not know how to. But eventually, I learned how to look for mentors, right? If these people who really come along and picked me up, really, and led me the way is getting good mentors in areas that you want. Then you want mentorship in marriage. If you believe in marriage, you want mentorship in spirituality. If you
mm,
believe in spirituality or you believe in God, you need mentorship in business if you're going into business or whatever it is that you bring into the marketplace.
yeah,
You need someone who succeeded really well in that area for them to help you be able to get where they are or even further,
yeah,
right? And then the other thing that really, really, really changed me, I loved reading. I still do love to read, right? But I was lost in reading novels. For many years, I read novels. I love reading, right?
mm,
I'm one of those few people who will call proficient readers who will go through a book in a week. My daughter is way better. I think
wow,
last year she said she went about 129 books. Um, if there's one skill I would like to impart to anybody, is the ability to read. The average person after high school reads one book a year. After high school, one book a year. That's the average person. Most people never ever touch a book after high school.
mhm,
So there's a very small percentage of human beings that read books and books are written for. But here's the key about books. If I went to school and became the best dentist in the world, and I turned around and wrote everything I know about the practice of dentistry in a book, if you are pursuing dentistry, don't you think you should read what I already know so that you can know what I know?
mhm,
Because I have put 10, 15, 20, 30 years of mastery into that book.
yeah,
And so you're condensing my 10 years of experience in a book and you're just opening pages and reading to acquire that knowledge. That's the gift of books,
yes,
right? I have a special relationship with business books. I like to smell them and to feel them and I build a bond with each and every book. Like,
yeah.
books have changed my
So
life.
you don't do audio? I do audio these days
I
because I'm in the
I
car a
do
lot.
see there's multiple ways of learning.
Yeah,
I remember in primary school we would form two or three classes in one classroom and would listen to this audiobook or whatever it is that we were listening to, right? It was like a story or something.
yeah,
So there's power in reading, right? And there's power in hearing, right? And there's power in seeing. So if your way is watching videos,
yeah,
watch videos and you learn that way. If you're good at listening, listen and learn that way. If it's reading, read. I do all three,
nice.
right? And I spend I don't listen to music. Okay, that's not correct. I do listen to music, but it's a very small fraction of my week, not my day. So I
Mm,
could go for days without listening to music.
mm,
But I'll tell you, every time I get into my vehicle, I'm on YouTube University. I'm learning from another podcaster. I'm learning from somebody else who's done it better than I have, right?
mm-hmm.
And so I'm constantly sharpening my skill by getting mentored by multiple people in different fields, right? You want to know what's going on around the world,
Sure.
but I'm not wasting time on social media, calling on IG and TikTok, with short videos. No, I want 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an
Yeah.
hour, 2 hours of concrete, planned out message that is really going to impact my life, right?
Yes.
And so if you can learn how to read, however you read, video, audio, or books, do it,
Yeah.
right? And especially in the field where you are a specialist. If you're a nurse, read about it and listen with what other nurses are doing. I know nurses who are making seven-figure incomes
Oh, wow.
from going to school for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I know some who've gone to school for 5 years and they're not making that kind of income.
Yeah.
All right. It's knowing how to niche in your field. And that's what matters.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change gears. I know
Yes.
we've talked about education a lot, and
Hmm.
this is something different. When I saw this in your bio, and I'm like, why choose homeschooling for your son? And I mean, with the drive where we where we come from, you gotta
Yeah.
go to school, you gotta go to class, other kids, learning from other kids. Because part of going to school, you also have to you learn from other kids, the
Right.
social skills and all of that. So why have your son do homeschooling?
So it's a lot of things that came into this, right? First, my son got bit by a tick,
Oh,
and
sorry.
that caused him to have a disease called Babesia.
Mm,
And so that Babesia, it causes early onset OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, right? Um, but
so
but
sorry.
thank God, we I was in a financial place where we were able to, fly him across the country, and eventually we were able to give him a, a, a a solution, and bring him back to who he was supposed to be, or who God had meant him to be, right? But in that process, um, he basically imprisoned my wife and just kept her home because he could not do anything. He could not be around other children or anything. And he probably spent a period there for almost a year, totally naked. He could not put on clothes. It was really difficult time for us
Oh,
as
I'm
a
so
couple.
sorry.
Um, but he's overcome that. So that was one of the reasons how, because all those years that we when he we pulled him out of school, we tried special schools that did not work. um and a lot of things. Food in America is a nightmare. So
Yeah.
there's all these things that we had to do. So my wife kind of started homeschooling him about that time. And so, but I'm also a believer in alternative education. And this is what I was talking about, our parents pounding hard on us that we need to get educated and we need to go to school. That's all they understood, not the how to get educated. I happen to understand the how, right? And so now that my son can go back to school, I don't want him to go back to school. He
Mm,
doesn't want to go back to school, right? Because I am teaching him how to be relevant in the marketplace, right? For example, next week we're going on a seminar for a week, and we're going to learn how to become master utilizers on AI. As a business person, I need to know how to integrate AI into my businesses.
yeah. It's a
As
big.
a as as a young man who's starting to grow and to go into the future, he needs to know how to start becoming better in utilizing technology in the future, right? This is when we start that. if you really look into it, when a kid goes to school, they only have 3 hours in the average school, maybe 4 hours of concrete learning. The rest of the time is used between busing to school, breaks, and moving from one classroom to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So there's very little time that is applied to actual education. And then when they sit down to start really learning something, especially in middle school and high school, it's 45 minutes to an hour maybe, and then they move on to another subject. So you're getting all these little nuggets that are not of any utility. There's a lot of things you did in school that are not helpful to you. And that's kind of where I kind of separated myself with the typical way of educating your kids, right? And we chose homeschooling because with homeschooling, I can pick what's important for him based on his personality,
Yes.
right? Like, for example, my son in music, they have bonds, right? And so we tweak his education based on his personality. We're not just educating him and giving him the general knowledge. In business, general knowledge does not get you anything. Specific knowledge, on the other hand, gets you paid really well. And so we're educating our son based on specificity, right? What he is wired to do best, what his personality will allow him to thrive, and everything does not matter. Right? The only basics that we are teaching him that the average kid that is 13 years old is getting taught in school is math and grammar. Everything else is out of the syllabus. We're not going to waste time with physics, chemistry, and all that good stuff. He
I
does
love
not need
it.
it.
Oh my God. No, I love that. I really love this. I think this is the point I was trying to make earlier when we were talking about how we were being raised. Because I always share with everybody, like if I grew up in America, I
Mhm,
think my parents could have just focused my energy on media. I love
yes.
dancing, I love acting, I love everything to do with media.
Mhm,
So I love that you're doing that for your son. And I think we should do more of this because it takes away from kids feeling like they're failing because they're not so specialized in the other subjects.
mhm,
Because like my kids, math is their thing. Science, no, they hate it. Both
mhm,
of them.
mhm,
They say it plainly, clear. We do not like, and I get complaints from my 5-year-old. He's in kindergarten, but he goes to a charter school. So he has this science class that he has to take. And he says, I don't learn anything in that class. So I'm like, okay,
mhm.
all right.
Now, so because I know this is controversial, and a lot of people are gonna say,
Listen,
hey,
it's our kids.
yeah,
Everything that we say is going to be controversial,
yeah,
regardless,
yeah,
because it's for each his own. You do what's
mhm,
right for your kids. We're not
yes,
saying have your kids, do like we're doing. If you like what you hear, hey, why not try? But
mm,
again, for each his own.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Like, education for everybody is the most important thing, right? Part of how governments manipulate and control people is the type of education they allow them to have, right?
Mhm.
I've met a friend of mine who says, just think about a classroom, right? And I know I said this one time when we were hanging out with the family, and I got attacked for saying this, right? That when we go to school, schools make us cons. What do I mean when I say school makes us cons? You sit in a classroom and there's a structure. You make roles,
Yeah.
and there's somebody in the front telling you what to do.
Mhm.
And they tell you when to raise your hand, when to go to the bathroom, when to stand up, when to sit up, and shut up. We do not want to hear your opinion. That's most schools.
Yeah.
And homeschool, for me and my son, is a productive argument. He has his point. I have to shut up and allow him to express himself. There's not the adult is speaking, you need to shut up. No, it's back and forth. Now, my daughter went to public school, but if there is a confident kid out there, that's one of them. Because the same thing, right? I allowed her to be able to express herself without trying to curtail who she was. Now we're talking about homeschooling. And so if you really think about how the classroom structure is, we go to school to be taught how to comply
Yeah.
in society.
Yes.
Okay. And so if you worked in a warehouse, is in a warehouse not structured like a classroom?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
have a supervisor at the top
Yes.
who's telling everybody what to do, and everybody is passing along what they need to do to get to the finished product.
Yeah.
We clock in, we clock out.
Yeah.
Just like the bell rings and the class starts, and the bell ring and the class ends. That for most people, it blocks your ability to become creative.
So I have
And
a
so
question
you only
for the
think in a
point
certain way. Yes.
that you are making. So when your son is homeschooling, there's no starting point. Who is teaching him? Because I know I have my babysitter does homeschooling,
Mhm,
and she actually offered
mhm,
to homeschool my kids at some
mhm,
point.
mhm.
So there is don't they have a starting point and an ending point? Like it starts from, I don't know, 9 o'clock and then
It
ends.
does. It does. Right. So a typical day for him, he wakes up at 9 o'clock in the morning,
Mhm.
goes out and does his thing, comes back at 10 o'clock. He has his first class. That's Japanese. I do not know how to speak Japanese. He has a Japanese teacher, right? Once he's done with the Japanese class, he goes into his math class. I'm not the best of math teachers, so he has an online math tutor through Khan Academy that teaches him math,
Mm.
right? And then after that, he goes to his grammar. He does grammar. After he's done his grammar, he goes to lunch, comes out of lunch, and I take him to another focused math class, right? And he does that, and then he does another focused grammar class, and then he comes out, and before you know it, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and he goes either to taekwondo or to play basketball. That's a typical day for him, right?
How does he
In
feel?
between there, oh, he loves it. In between there, me and him have a class, right? We have a 2 hour session, and in that 2 hour session, we talk about business, right? I have started walking him through what a financial statement is supposed to look like. We talk about what the market and market trends look like.
That's amazing.
We may watch Shark Tanks, and when we watch an episode of Shark Tanks, he's taking notes, and then we stop after the episode, and then I ask, why was this offer given? Why did this funding go through? Why did they not know? Where did they present? Where did the business owner fail? Where did they succeed? Why did the Shark Tanks decide to buy into? Why did they take 20%, not 10%? On and on and on, so that I can start breaking the norm of his mind to start seeing how when you go into a room and you're presenting, how do you do it?
I love
Then
it.
step back. We do simple things like play chess. Helps you start thinking 3, 4, 5 moves in decision making.
Yeah.
Right? He is in the house with us, and my wife and I work mostly from home, and he can hear us talking about business. He can see us getting into business meeting, and he will see how we handle people. And sometimes we'll throw in an idea. So it's spending time with him that he is getting this encompass view of the world. But he loves to trade, loves to trade. And for the last year and a half, he's been learning how to trade. Spends about an hour every day with a business coach who's teaching him how to trade. So
Wow.
from 10 to about 5, he's busy. He's doing something. Some
Yeah.
things I help him with, other things he'll help with other people. And each day is very different from the other day. Now, I also know a lot of people who homeschool their kids, but they have a syllabus that they use, and that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I love it. I mean, you are very busy. How do you balance everything between your son, your eight-figure businesses? How do you balance the everything? And you're married, because I
People.
know marriage needs time. Yes.
Yes, it does. Marriage needs a lot of attention,
Mhm.
right? You stop paying attention, you get in trouble.
Yep.
And so we in business, you have to create two things. One of them is a radical, beautiful way to hire great people. And then the second one is you have to create systems and procedures that actually work, and then be able to train on those systems and procedures. Right? So if you create systems and procedures, or by the way, a great book out there that can help any entrepreneur with figuring out how to create systems and procedures is the E-Myth.
E-Myth?
Yes. And there's a new version of the E-Myth out there that is called the E-Myth Revisited. I've read both multiple times. Right? The E-Myth teaches you how to systemize your business so that you can start to bring on employees, and the employees can become you. As a business owner, you have to multiply yourself. Remember when I started my business, I used to do everything by myself.
Yeah.
And then I had a first employee, and then I had a second, third, fourth, on and on and on. They all need to do the same thing, from how they wear their uniform, how they groom themselves, how they relate to the customer. If my employee shows up and talks to a customer and another one shows up, they say the same thing.
Yeah.
The same way. How are you standing? How are you presenting yourself?
Yeah.
It's all written down. It's all rigorously trained before you let you go to interact with the customer. If you pick up a phone and you speak with a customer service agent that's working for us in the US, and one in Kenya, and one in the Philippines, they all sound the same. They say the same things. It's like a computer, but it's humans. How do you do that? It's training, it's creating systems and procedures that are similar, and then enforcing that. And then you bring great leaders, right? Great leaders, you got to pay them well, train them well, and then let them lead, right? Being able to step away from the business and let them do their thing is magical, but it's very difficult. And this is how I'm able to spend a lot of time with my son.
Nice. No, I'm just thinking of the people that are not able to let go of the business because they're so attached to it. And I just love what you just gave, because that should give them multiply yourself, honestly.
Yes, yes. I mean, there's selfishness when you're not able to multiply yourself. You one person can only do so much.
Yeah.
So what problem are you solving in the marketplace, right? If the problem you're solving in the marketplace is only bringing in $1 million and you're happy with that, there's no problem with that. You're fine. We have a lot of chiropractors and dentists and all that just work by themselves. That's fine if that's what you want. But how many people are you really helping? And if you are like me, who wants to help thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people,
Yeah.
you have to multiply yourself, right? And that means proper training, good system and procedures, and great leaders.
Do you guys hire from outside? Like you are in an immigrant space. This is
Yes.
just a question. Do you hire from, let's say someone is in Kenya, can you hire them to come here? Sponsor them?
We have not been bringing people into the US to work for us here, but we hire people to work from where they, so we have a lot of remote employees.
Oh, okay. That's amazing.
Yes.
Well, feel free to share the job opportunities with us. I do share. There's a lot of organizations that do share, and I share on our platforms.
Okay, fantastic. I will speak to Sam so that she can reach out to you for that.
Yes, no, thank you. So immigration. What are some of the challenges you believe immigrants face today, and how do they navigate those
We
hurdles?
we are, and I think you focused on the African migrant group, right?
No,
So
everywhere.
okay, good. So
Yeah.
immigrants, the biggest enemies to immigrants is ourselves,
How?
right? You migrate from Zambia and you come to New York, and
Yes.
maybe most Zambians migrate to, and I'm just speaking hypothetically, to Brooklyn, New York, and that's where most Zambians stay.
Mm-hmm.
Or you migrate from China and you go to Chinatown, in New York or California,
Yeah.
or you migrate from, remember, you migrate from Kenya and you are buried somewhere in Massachusetts because that's where most people are, or you migrate from Egypt and you disappear in California somewhere in LA because that's where most Egyptians go,
Yeah.
right? And that's the problem, at least in our perspective. It's okay to go there and it's okay to network with people that you came from Egypt with and you came from China with. But the moment you choose to break away and go hide somewhere in Alaska, now you have different problems and you have different experiences and you're really forced to really integrate with that new community. And guess what? You start seeing opportunities that they don't see. And there is where you plug in, right? The other part is we go out and we learn how to do a business and we become so good at it and we start telling other people we're doing well. But when they come back to you and they say, teach me or show me what you do so that I can go out there and do it, we hold back or we lie. And that does not get you anywhere,
No, it doesn't.
right? So
I'm
those
I'm
two
glad you
things are
bring
really,
up that
really, really
point.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad those 2 points are important, and I know Dr. Dennis also touched on it, of stepping away from your communities. Like for us, I mean, we come here, we go to the Bronx, we go to Brooklyn, but when you move away, I love the point that you get to see opportunities that you might not otherwise see in your own communities, and then
And
people
your
just
network
not,
changes.
yeah, the network changes and people not being authentic with what's or willing to share the experiences.
Mhm.
That's the another problem that we have. I completely agree. I agree on that one. Um, so you are the host of the Immigrant Nation podcast.
Yep,
What
immigrant
inspired
forward.
you to get into podcasting space?
See, there was that one other thing, right? We don't like to share, right? And then there's a story of how many years I tried in business and failed. Oh, and by
Mm,
the way, I'm still failing,
mm,
right? My wife and I just shut down a business that had potential to generate over $2 million, was employing over 30 employees, and had a profit margin of over 13.6%. So it was a good business, but we shut it down.
oh wow.
One, because we had just bought that business a year prior, and it had a lot of problems in it. A lot of lawsuits came with that business after we acquired it. It was a very bad acquisition for me. I made a lot of mistakes, right? This is where I'm saying get comfortable with failure,
Yeah.
right? Would it have made sense for me to go through and struggle through that business and for the next 2 years fix all the problems we were going
Mm,
through? Absolutely, it would
mm.
have. But it was bad for my marriage.
Got it.
It was where it was located, and I found myself being gone away from my wife for days on end. And because of all the problems we had and the location of the business, I was like, I'm not going to make the same mistakes I've made in the past, right? So I shut it down. That was not an easy decision, it was a difficult decision.
I can't imagine.
But
Yeah.
it was an easy decision compared to the investment I have put in my wife and the investment my wife has put in me.
I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, get comfortable with it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
going back, what inspired you to open to be in the podcasting space?
So podcasting. I wanted to share my experiences in business, the successes, the failures, the struggles that I had had in the past, right? And so for many years, I toyed with the idea of starting a podcast. I just didn't have the right people around me. Neither was it the right time, right?
Mm,
And I just kept toying with this idea, and I toyed with this idea, and I was like, I need to be able to share with people and to find people who've really been able to be successful in life, and have them share those stories with people who are trying to figure out. Because for me, finding mentors was really difficult. right? And so if I could create a place where mentors are able to be accessible to other people and they can be able to share their knowledge, their wins and their losses, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up, moving forward with the podcast. Yes.
No, I mean, your podcast is amazing. You do have a lot of immigrants there, which I'm still
Thank you.
listening
Thank you. Thank you.
to the stories in there, and it covers everything: faith, um, uh, business. It covers everything. So please, guys, as you're listening to us, please check out the podcast, the Immigrant Nation podcast. It's really amazing. They also have video, which I love. I love to watch video. I like to put a face to the names that we're seeing. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking ahead, what are some of your goals for the future, both personally and professionally?
That's a very interesting question. So on personal goals, right? And so on personal goals, and I'm going to delve into this just a little bit if that's okay with you.
Mm,
Um, I I hate being poor. I hated being poor as a kid. Hated it, still do.
mm,
And so I want to make sure that if God allows me, that I create resources and resourcefulness that I can leave behind for my great grandchildren. If God allows me, I want my great grandchildren to look back and say, that was that dude, that was our great grandpa,
mm.
and look what he did. So that's what really drives me, right? That's what drives me. And God has called us to do that. God, in scripture, God says, uh, bring, go create wealth for your generations or something close to that,
Yeah.
right? So yeah,
Oh, no, I love
now
it. I
I
love
said I was going to delve into goals. So let me go into goals, right? Because it's important.
Yeah.
There's there's nothing you do in life without having a driving goal. And a driving goal comes from passion.
Yeah.
So for whatever field you want to go into or whatever it is that you want to have goals, and then you want to be able to write your goals down. Like writing your goals down and revisiting them every day is probably the most important thing. And you write your goals down in present tense. I am, right? I am. Um, and review them. I write my goals in the morning and I review them at night. In the morning and I review them at night. Over and over and over again. And I've done it for over 13 years.
Mhm. I mean, we share that. I have, I write them and I also make a vision board. So my vision board is
Those
all
are
mine.
really powerful, my
Yes.
goodness.
So I have a vision board and I put it, it's actually on my phone. So it saves as the screensaver. So every single day I look at it. We talk about the Bible now. I mean, it says make the vision. Okay. So
Hmm.
we are
Hmm.
making the vision. So whether
Without
you,
without with-
I mean,
without a vision, the people perish, right?
yes. So I've lived with that for a very long time also. Like it's really great advice. Write out your goals, your vision, whatever where you see yourself and look at it every single day. Read it if you want, make a vision board if you can. There's so many apps out there that can help you put all of these things together. I never used to do the vision board. One of my sisters
Hmm.
helped me put the pictures together, which
Hmm.
I love it. Every December, before the end of the year, I'm making it for the next year, what the year is going to look like. So you have some type of structure. That's amazing.
Yes,
I love it.
yes. I love vision boards. At least I don't know about you, but mine changes quite so often. But there's certain things that I've had on that board for years,
Mm,
right? And believe it or not, 90% of anything that I have put on my vision board has come true.
yeah, Yeah.
right? And so they are very, very powerful. They really are.
No, they're very, very.
Right.
I live on them. I told my sister doesn't do it. She's like, I just live my life. I'm like, try the vision board. I mean, Oprah Winfrey does it. She's the one who's been advertising for it.
Let,
Uh, I mean, there's so many people that do it, and you are testing to it. So, hey,
let,
guys.
let, let me speak to your sister, right? A boat cannot, once you place a boat on water, it will go anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? A boat without a rudder will go anywhere. The water will lead it north, west, east, or south. But the moment you place a rudder in the water, now you can give that board directions. And the vision board is what gives you purpose and direction.
Mm.
Like really, it just narrows your mind to, okay, I'm headed to Alaska. That's the power of the vision board.
Yeah,
So,
I love it.
yeah.
All right, listen, I can keep you here forever, and you know we're podcasters. We can talk forever. Uh, I don't want to keep you away from your family. One final question.
Mhm.
Final thoughts on what one lesson you've or insight you would like to share with our listeners about resilience and pursuing one's dream.
Be clear about what your dream is. Write it down, create a plan, and then go to work. Massive, massive effort, like relentless tenacity. Go at it. You're gonna get punched in the stomach. People are gonna say shit about you. That's cool. Just stick to your goal. Go after it, and before you know it, you'll be there. Just remember, life is a marathon, not a 100-meter dash.
Martin, it's been such an honor. I've learned so much. This was so insightful. And I'm so honored that you made time for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
All right. It's good to see you. Let's talk soon again.
You too.